Good evening. Welcome to All for United. Somebody once said that Saturday nights were right for fighting, but hopefully we're not going to be doing that today because, ring the bell, we have managed to score in the Premier League, and would you believe it, it's resulted in 3 wonderful, beautiful points that for the shortest of periods had us back in the top half of the table until Bournemouth stunned the world and defeated the ballers that are meant to be the mighty Arsenal. So what a day it has been in the Premier League. So I went out and found the very best that I could in terms of people who have been to Old Trafford and watched the game. And I came back with these 2 fine young specimens. Adam, how you doing, sir? You all right?
Very well, Barry. Thanks for having me on again. Looking forward to it.
Yes, me too. And of course, it's not All for United if we haven't occasionally seen this man. And here he is. It's the one, the only, the OG, the man with the beard to end them all. Not seen since Gimli, I think, from Lord of the Rings. It's Benny. How you doing, sir? You all right?
I'm very good. I don't. Do you know what? I don't think I could ever top that as an intro. Thank you very much for that, Barry.
I try my best. I've got to have some uses, haven't I? And apparently that's my one. So there we go. Gang, it's been absolutely just an unbelievable day. I'm going to ask you from the top, really, with regards to the team selection. It's always a good place to start. Interesting changes. Johnny Evans obviously coming in. We knew that Mainu wasn't going to be able to play, so the Casemiro one made sense. I think the front end of the pitch pretty much picked itself. I think most people were fairly content with that. Rashford on the right, though, which was perhaps a contentious decision for some. Adam, what did you make of that going forward in terms of the decision made and the initial start to the game? But then also with what we've done in defence with having Dalot come into right back and then obviously a little bit of a defensive change. What did you make of all of that?
Yeah, like defensively, the reports coming out last couple of days was Johnny Evans is going to be at left back, and I think anyone with any kind of knowledge inside United knew he'd be putting Martinez at left back. And that was the correct decision today because the system that Ten Hag tries to play, especially going forward, is that Dalot tends to slot into the midfield. So really then you're left with the 3 centre-backs. So I thought it was actually quite balanced today in the absence of obviously having a left back, and Mazraoui's had that issue over the international break. I must admit, when I saw the Casemiro-Eriksen combination, I was a little bit concerned because Brentford have been quite good this season. So I was a little bit worried that we'd get overrun again. But again, I think it was more forced from Ten Hag's perspective with Ugarte being injured or having that nick, and he had to come off in the 80-odd minute for Uruguay, and he was really late back because he was over in South America. So I don't think he was ever going to play today. I wouldn't be surprised to see him starting Fenerbahce on Thursday, if I'm honest. But it was actually a very balanced side in the end. And I think a lot of that's probably down to tactics. We did look a lot more compact today. There seemed to be a lot more energy, particularly in that second half. So from a team selection standpoint, I couldn't have been happier with what he had available to him today, if I'm honest.
Benny, if there's one thing we know about you, it's that you are positive when it comes to Manchester United. You remain firmly on the side of the badge at all times. We love that about you. But the defence has been an interesting situation for Manchester United now, probably for about 18 months. We've not had a recognised left back for what feels like a ridiculous amount of time whilst just watching people leave. Brandon Williams, Alvaro Fernandez just disappearing. Were you content with the lineup?
Yeah, pretty much so, to be fair. Obviously, there was a bit of confusion who was going to play left back. Whether that be Johnny Evans or whether that be Lisandro Martinez. Obviously, it ended up being Lisandro Martinez. In the terms of the left back, to be fair, I'm really surprised Harry Amass not had a chance at some point. Barnsley would have been a perfect game for him to play. I've said that before. But it doesn't look like that Ten Hag's going to give him the opportunity. I don't think he'll give him the opportunity in the Premier League, certainly. I don't think he'll get an opportunity unless he plays some sort of a dead rubber game in the Europa League. Maybe if it comes down to that, if we've already qualified, or it's just a shame that we haven't seen much of a Harry Mass, who's an out-and-out left-back, who did pretty well in pre-season. But today, I thought, I can't pronounce his name, so I do apologise, but Mazraoui, sorry, I butchered his name. I thought he'd start, to be fair. I know that he's had a bit of illness and what have you, and he missed the international break, but I actually thought he would start, and Delo would be slotted at left back with Evans and De Ligt. I thought Martinez was going to sort of warm the bench again, but then lo and behold, Mr. Ten Hag comes out and obviously Mazraoui, well, how you pronounce his name, I cannot say it, but he's obviously deemed not fit enough to start, with still recovering from illness or whatever it is that he had. That was the problem, the issue during the national break. Puts Delo back at right back. He looked comfortable, Delo at right back, but having said that, there was still a few shaky moments there from Diogo, especially when the ball's coming over the shoulder. He just sometimes seems to switch off a little bit. But nonetheless, I thought he had a decent-ish game. But that back line, I think Johnny Evans in it calms it down. I've said this before. I know Johnny Evans, he's getting on in age. You can't keep relying on him week in, week out. He can't play every single game. I know that. But I said this after the Villa game, I still think he's United's best centre-half because he's got the intelligence. He's got a footballing brain. I think he's got, he's calm. He does very, very rarely does he panic. Very rarely gets caught out. Just a commander at the back, a bit of a leader, a bit of a presence, I think, which we have missed at the back. I think that's somebody that's just, communicates. He's got the experience, can talk to Martinez. I think he brings a calmness at the back, with De Ligt and Martinez. Sometimes maybe a bit erratic, especially Martinez. Listen, I love the guy, he's all blood and thunder, Martinez, but just that experience head next to him, just say, just to talk to him, just to keep him calm. And I think that's helped us.
No, I think you're right. I think both very good points there. And listen, I was so pleased to see Diogo Dalot finally back at right back. I think if he's going to have any part to play in Manchester United, that's the position 100% that he needs to be in, because we know how good he can be at right back. We have seen that through his career at United. And the thing is, there's always going to be problems, isn't there? I think it seems to be a really weird situation, including like in this whole game. People expect Manchester United as a football team to just dominate the entire 90 minutes and never allow any shots and never allow any chances. And the other team can't possibly play football against us. And ditto with the players. Like, they're never allowed to make a mistake. You can't ever make one. I think you stick him in at right back and he makes a mistake, then, that's going to happen. But when you're not playing him in the position that he really belongs in, you're kind of setting him up to fail, which isn't the best thing. And you know what, Enti? I thought this as well. We must have done something right today if Twilumba was a bit impressed. Couldn't agree more. So, look, we said about the first half, there's not a huge amount to talk about with there. Brentford, I think, had about 6 shots, a couple of them on target. We, on the other hand, were on about 10 or 11 and managed about 3 on target by the end of the first half. The possession was atrocious for the first 15, 20 minutes. Brentford were all over us, about 60, 70%. But United got their way back into it. They found their feet again, started passing the ball a lot better. And by the time we was getting to half-time, it was a much more even game in terms of the possession. And United specifically were now starting to dominate in terms of having shots. And if any team looked like they were going to take the lead, it was Manchester United. Before we get onto the goal, Adam, just give us a bit of what the crowd was like, because it did feel a little bit quiet and a little bit dead at the start. But
yeah,
as the play started to change, the players kind of managed to get the fans back into it in that first half.
Yeah, I mean, Benny will obviously add to this. It felt quite tense, particularly where I was sat. A lot of people, I could hear grumbles and mumbles about, oh, we're just doing the same things again, same mistakes. This is boring, or the usual that we've kind of heard over the last few weeks, which they have a right to say. We all pay a lot of money to go on and watch them. So the frustration was starting to creep in as that half wore on. It didn't help that, we missed a few really good opportunities. The one that I always think to mind was Eriksen's, where he found himself suddenly one-on-one with the keeper and managed to sky it over the top of the bar. That went down like a lead balloon where I was sat anyway. And Garnacho as well, he had a few where he got in and he kept going for the near post rather than trying to go across the keeper. So the tension was building as the half went on, and obviously we conceded, and there was a huge then outpouring of quite negative emotions, some directed at the referee, in fact, a large majority at the referee because of the fiasco that went on, which I'm sure we'll get onto and discuss. But when we came out and started really strongly in that second half, and that Garnacho equaliser went in, it turned on its head, and the crowd really got up then, really got behind them, and it ended up being like a really dubious, quite joyful atmosphere in the end, towards the end of the second half.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. It was a difficult one, wasn't it, Benny? Because, again, NT saying here, the Eriksen miss, Bruno shot and Garnacho chancing in 60 seconds alone almost made him give up. I know that he's just saying that, but we never really give up in that respect. But we know that you and your little man, Zayden, are massive fans of Garnacho. And within that first half, of the 10 shots or so that we had, half of them were by Garnacho. And it feels like a really interesting dichotomy again. I always put it down to the fact that United have just got so many fans that you're never going to please them all. It's always going to be very extreme views either end of the scale. But there are people saying that Garnacho should pass more, people saying that, it's selfish of him to continually keep shooting. What was your thoughts on his performance in the first half? But also, as we said, just how Manchester United managed to dig deep to the point where really we should have been the team to go in 1-0 at half time.
As I said with, I don't think I've said this before. I don't think it'd be on this show, but I've said it on said it somewhere. I can't remember where I said it. It might have been on one of these shows. I can't quite remember. But I've said it before. You'd be damned if you do, damned if you don't. If you're an attacking player, especially if you're a Garnacho, for example. Yes, he can be a bit greedy at times. But when players are afraid to have a shot, at least he's not afraid to take a shot, if that makes sense. So we had a point where I think it was Højlund, if I remember correctly, tried walk it in the back of the net instead of smacking it first time. And it's like, don't walk it in the net, hit it. With Garnacho, he does get a little bit frustrated. At times you're thinking, could he maybe pass there? Could he maybe try and dig that across? But the guy's relentless. I've said this before. He's relentless. He just keeps on going. Never lets anything faze him. If the crowd starts moaning and groaning a little bit, he never lets that get him down. He just picks up the ball again or receives the ball again, and he drives. And whether he shoots or whether he tries to pass or cross, at least he's trying to make something happen. Sometimes a lot of players play within themselves too much. Rashford is sometimes often guilty with that. Play within himself too much, making the wrong decisions at times. Instead of passing or shooting, he's running into a brick wall, basically. Sometimes that happens with Garnacho as well. I'm not saying he's totally not faultless. He does have his faults, Garnacho. He's still learning. He's still a kid. He's still learning at the very, very highest level. But what you do get out of him, as I said, is determination. Just sheer willingness to try and drive the team forward at times. He's always the outlet. In the first half, it was annoying me because he had acres and acres of space and we weren't lucky to switch the ball to him. I was expecting someone like Casemiro, who's pretty good at spotting the switch. He was sluggish today on the ball. I felt Casemiro just a little bit. Usually he received the ball on a half turn, notices there's a guy over his shoulder there with plenty of space, and he knocks it into that space beautifully. Didn't see too much of that from Casemiro today. But in the first half, I think Garnacho was getting a little bit frustrated because he had acres and acres of space, and it just kept going down the right-hand side. And it's like, well, switch it, or it kept going back towards the goalkeeper. It's like, he's in acres of space here. That first-time ball pings over the top. 8 times out of 10, 9 times out of 10, he's catching it. He's going to either, bring it down, control it, or run onto it. It's just... So you've got to appreciate sometimes with attacking forwards, attacking minded players like Alejandro Garnacho, that sometimes they are a bit greedy. Cristiano Ronaldo, when he first came to United, he was often criticised for being a bit greedy, a bit of a show pony. Can he release the ball quicker? Can he pass? Can he get across it a bit? It'll all come with experience and game time and development in his learning. Because he's still learning at the end of the day. But there's 3 or 4 times in the game at various points where he did flash the ball across the 6-yard box and nobody's there. Nobody's there to attack it. Brilliant balls across, by the way. Brilliant balls. You perfectly weighted, enough away from the keeper as well. So the keeper's got no chance. All it needs is that forward to gamble, whether that'll be a Marcus Rashford trying to come in around the back, or whether that'll be a Højlund coming through the centre, or whether it'll be a Bruno or an Eriksen trying to break in late. We're not reading sometimes when Garnacho does put the ball in as well. We're not reading that type of situation. But then again, it could also be down to the fact that sometimes you expect him to shoot maybe more often than not. And so, listen, I think it's still got a way to learn, still got a bit to go, to educate himself on the football field, to make the correct decision. Instead of making the correct decision 6, 7 times out of 10, to get it up to the 8, 9, 10 out of 10 mark, we need to, it'll develop in there. It'll get there.
For sure. Sorry if you saw my face go a little bit funny there for a second, but I was a little bit confused by what NT was going at there. Not entirely sure where Ronaldo came from in the conversation, but why did he have spaghetti growing in his hair when he first joined? I presume that's something to do with the highlights in his hair. That must be. But you've lost me a little bit there, NT, I'm afraid. So please help me out to understand what on earth you are going on about with that one. Whilst we're talking about things that are in hair, I suppose now would be a good time for the 3 of us that don't have much apart from on our chins to have a conversation about the blood, shall we say, the blood, sweat and tears, because it's what led ultimately to the goal. And it's farcical, it's frustrating. For a start, a free kick's given to Brentford when they've managed to karate kid Matthias de Ligt. He's been kneed in the head. He's bleeding profusely. That's a free kick, apparently. Now, ignoring the semantics, whether it is or it isn't a free kick, I think where we need to go down in this is to the medical department, because they come on, they had big bandage on his head when they took him off the pitch. He's being dealt with. When he comes back on, no bandage. Now, I think he has to go off a further 2 times, and the second time he had to go off is obviously just before Brentford take their corner, from which they score. Now, when that corner comes in, obviously there's a discussion to be had about what happened with Dalot. He completely loses his man, but equally, Casemiro goes up for the header against him and also doesn't get it. So I'm not going to just blame Diogo Dalot for that, but also we are, annoyingly, 1 person down because of the fact that De Ligt is off the pitch, ready to come back on, but not allowed to, because obviously there's blood. Now, we all know that that's the rule. I've got no drama with that being the case. I've got no drama with the fact that he had to go off because there was blood. That is the rule. It's been the rule for ages, for years. And I don't care how they got that. I don't care if VAR found it. I don't care if the ref saw it. That's the rule. And player safety is 100% paramount. So none of that bothers me. But what bothers me, for me, is the medical team. At what point did they not think this isn't going to work just yet? we're going to have to bandage this head. Why didn't they just do it? Like, you go back to the olden days, we can do it. Oh, nice early one, NT, he's going to love this. Brian Robson, Terry Butcher. You start mentioning those names. You start Steve Bruce. You start thinking about these bandages around the head that the defenders would be playing. Where was that? Why was there no bandage? Why on earth did we put a defender in there who's going to be heading the ball and was winning all of the aerial duels? What's going to happen if you hit a head injury that's been bleeding with a football that is rock hard, by the way, when you go to head it? And then you think, oh, it's probably going to bleed again, which means he's then got to go off. So, Adam, what was the general buzz around the Stretford end on that? Because for me, that's a schoolboy error, and it never should have been allowed by the medical department to not bandage that.
Yeah, I mean, it was frustrating. I mean, we didn't really get a sense of how bad it was. Like, you guys watching on the telly will have seen the severity of it. We couldn't really see it from, so obviously they were playing towards the old scoreboard in the first half when that injury happened. But when I've seen the pictures since and the videos, absolutely, what were the medical department doing? And ultimately, I guess only they'll be able to answer that. Were they getting pressure from the bench to get him back on as quickly as possible and get him strapped up? Because it was at a time in the game where, you know, Brentford were coming back into it a little bit. So, yeah, they can only answer that. But it was a bad one. So why they didn't bandage up? I'm a nurse myself. So I'd have been looking at that straight away and being like, we need to close that up. Because as you rightly say, he was a beast today with his head as well, Dilly. Order anything that came into that box, he was a magnet to it. Whereas Souness now saying he's too small for the Premier League or whatever he was when we signed him. He was an absolute monster when it came to clearances today. He was using his head all day long. So you're absolutely right. Why didn't they think, well, this is just going to continue to keep splitting open? And it's where he would have been when we conceded that goal. He was in the centre for every set piece, heading those balls away. He would have been there. I mean, we can't say it's all if buts and maybes, I know. But he would have got that ball away. But the goal in general, just going off topic slightly, I think was an individual error because that all came about. We had 2 minutes to go. We had possession of the ball and Delo throws it to no one in the middle of the park. We lose possession. They go up, get the corner, put it in with a defender down and we concede. Just play a simple throw into Rashford, who was stood in front of him. The little 1-2s, try and keep hold of a possession, but that's by the by. But yeah, it's back to your question. They should have just took the extra time when they had him down on the floor there and then to get it bandaged up so he was protected for the rest of the half and then reassess it when they got him back in the dressing room.
Absolutely, and not off topic at all to go and talk about the go. It all rounds up into one there, I think. Benny, a little bit of nodding there from you. I mean, it is a bit of naivety from Dallo. We know that. But then you've got the experience of Casemiro not able to get there and head the ball away. I don't. Am I harsh? Am I having too much of a go there at the medical department? I mean, JJ saying apparently they told Ten Hag it dried up, but even if it had, like, if you scab over, it doesn't take long. It only needs the scab to go off for it to start bleeding again. And when you know that that's what's going to cause the problem in the first place, I mean, even if you thought that the first time, when he goes off the second time, surely at that point you must be thinking, do you know what? Let's just get this sorted until we can see you properly at half time. Why didn't they?
I kind of think it's down to the player. As the player said, maybe I don't want it on. You know, if it's dried up and they're saying no, it doesn't look very bad. It looks like it's dried up. He's probably gone, well, a preference. I don't want it wrapped around my head. Especially somebody that likes to win headers. And like you say, De Ligt was a monster in the air today. Absolutely brilliant. That's all I could think of. And even then, should it be down to, we've got all this protocol over head injuries anyway, should it be down to the medical staff that said, hold on, no, you should really recommend you wearing a bandage on? I can only think it's a player. Because he did have one on originally, and then all of a sudden, next thing I know, he's not got one on. He's gone off a further couple of times for the same injury. I'm dumbfounded how it's a free kick to Brentford in the first place, to be fair. You know, as you said, where's VAR in all this? I was just shocked. It's shocking. That was shocking. I was like, how was that even a free kick?
Well, I mean, clearly it's against the rules to headbutt people's knees.
Well,
Are in the air.
Must be. But then when you fast forward onto it a little bit, though, it's like, you're a player short. You coming up to half time, need to defend a corner. Who's taking responsibility? Who's taking leadership? And I mentioned Johnny Evans earlier on. It can't just be down to Johnny Evans. It can't just be down to Bruno Fernandes. There's vastly many experienced players on that field. They're all international. A lot of them are all international football players playing at the highest level. Who's taking charge there? You one down. Your mate's off the field, getting treatment. Where's the concentration? Where's the talking to each other? Where's the commanding presence of one or two of those senior international players just to go, come on, we'll keep it tight now. Keep it tight. Let's make sure we back up everyone. Yes, you're a player light, but that shouldn't be allowed to be scoring from there like they did there. Free header. I hate things like free headers. It really bugs me. Shouldn't be allowing free headers inside your box at all. Should be switched on there. Should be switched on to the runners. Switched on to the movement. It's just basic common sense sometimes, isn't it? Just basic schoolboy stuff, making sure everyone's got a man. You stick with that man. Watch our runners. Pick our runners up. But listen, it's one of those things, isn't it? Again, we've got to tighten up at the back sometimes, especially when we're a man down. If we're a man down through injury or a man down, if someone's sent off, we need to make sure we just, switch on a little bit. Think, take 30 seconds to think. We've got everybody. Has everybody got a man? Obviously they're gonna have a spare man, but who's picking up that spare man? Who's watching out for that runner? Who's watching the spare man? It's just sometimes I think sometimes one or two of the players they switch off too easily. It's nearly half time. We're going at 0-0. We'll go again. We're back up to 11. Ref should blow at any time, and then just get into a mind where we just relax, just switch off, and it's just like, come on, we've got to really be switched on until the referee blows that whistle for half time.
No, absolutely spot on, and we were wide open as Simon says, but I think it's a very interesting situation again that, as you say, we weren't going to have everybody back, so it was one of those where we were going to be sort of battening down the hatches as best we could. That's what you need everybody to muck in, I suppose. Is it a different medical team to last year? Yes, I think there are some changes. I'm sure we went and got one of the Arsenal physios. It feels like we're getting new ones every season. But look, I'm a first aider, and even I know you've got to put a compress on that. I don't need to be a physiotherapist with years of medical training. And as JJ says, it was a proper bleed. Looked like someone had thrown red paint on his head. And, the really stupid thing is that the head is the place where you can you bleed from on the slightest thing. I can remember working for B&Q, and I was off underneath some of the racking, and one of the little, not a big one, but one of the little arms fell off and hit me on the head. And I was like, oh, that's a bit annoying. So I just rubbed my head like that. I'm like, oh, blimey, I'm bleeding. It was, so I'm walking down to the tills. I've got my hand on my head like that. And I wanted to get into the first aid kit. And I'll turn around to the girl on the till and I'll just say, can you just grab that first aid kit? And she's kind of, it's a little bit rude, Barry. Can you just wait? I'm with a customer. And the customer, God bless her, turned around and went, no, if I was you, I'd get the first aid kit. Because at that point, apparently, it's all just down my face. It's like, it's absolutely, I'm claret everywhere. And I feel fine. The manager's come flying over. He's giving it the old, Barry, you need to sit down. I'm like, honestly, I'm all right. He's like, you need to sit down. I'm going to put you down. He was a boxer, so I weren't going to argue with him. But like, genuinely, it looks a lot worse than it is. And they called an ambulance, and all it was, tiny little bit of glue. That's all they put in, a tiny little bit of glue. Probably could have got that off the shelf myself if I'd have really wanted to. Just a little bit of that. Job's good. And obviously it worked at half time. Whatever they needed to do, they did at half time because there was no problems in the second half. So, yeah, it's frustrating because you would think they should have been able to deal with it. MT has responded about Ronaldo. Yeah, I can remember the pictures you're talking about now. But I'm still confused as to how that came up. Maybe Benny mentioned Ronaldo at some point, possibly. But if not, I don't know where that came from. But good stuff. And as Mad said, ironically, though, conceding the manner we did, maybe won us the game. It certainly meant we had to come out in the second half with fire and verve. But we were doing that anyway, moving up to half time. We were absolutely bossing them. The commentator said, United won't be wanting half time just now because we were rocking and rolling. Brentford were on the ropes. And then we get to that point, concede the goal, come out second half. Alejandro Garnacho. Whew, what a guy. But also, Marcus Rashford. What a chap. Because between the two of them, it was brilliant. You go watching Twitter at half time, and all you can hear is Marcus Rashford shouldn't be on the right. It's a waste of time. What's he doing out there? Garnacho's selfish. He's having too many shots. It's almost like they're all sat there at half time going through Twitter going, we'll show you. Because Rashford, what a ball that is, by the way. You put him out on the left, he's not delivering that ball. And I'm not convinced, even the likes of Diallo, Dallo, I'm not convinced that's coming from any of them. Rashford with a superb ball to the far stick. Garnacho comes in, connects brilliantly. And as we've said a million times before, Adam, Andy Cole used to take a few shots before he might put a ball in the back of the net. But when you're creating that many chances, and you've got someone that can just forget about everything that's gone before, back of the net, 1-1, and all of a sudden, everybody's back on the right page, and it felt like Man United again. What did you make of it, Adam?
Yeah, that's one thing I do love about Garnacho. He's a real fighter. He doesn't give up. And Benny mentioned earlier that he doesn't let anything seem to faze him on the pitch. He'll just keep going and trying. And funnily enough, because I know it's been mentioned a few times tonight already, I remember going on United when I was young with my dad, when Ronaldo was with us the first time round. And it was early on in his career, and a chant had gone up, there's only one Ronaldo. And I remember I remember it vividly behind me saying, and it's not you, in like a deadpan voice. And then what did he go on to do? And the career that man's had. So you've got to remember that a lot of our squad are still kids at the minute. They've still got years and years of maturity ahead of them. And, Garnacho has scored some fantastic goals for us already in his very short career. And he is nowhere near his prime yet. And he already looks like a very mature young man when he's on that pitch. And I agree to your point. I thought Rashford today was undernoticed. I thought he put in a really good shift out there on the right. He was getting back, tracking back, putting in fantastic tackles, winning the ball back, whipping in dangerous crosses, having a run, having a go. And it felt like he was kind of getting back and getting his confidence back to where it was 2 years ago. But yeah, the goal, that's kind of changed everything. They came out of a rocket up their arse. Like, you can tell that was a pissed off dressing room at half time with what had happened just beforehand. Ten Hag was booked, Van Nistelrooy was booked. You can tell they went in there and they really got the lads going. And that was evident from the moment they came out and they kicked off. It was like night and day. I know we were kind of getting on top of them just prior to that, but it was like we went up from fourth to fifth gear and we really started to, put the foot down on the throat. And it could have been loads more, if I'm honest, in that second half. We were all over them, but it was a really, really fantastic way to start. You talk about concentration. I guarantee that Thomas Frank is fuming tonight because it was within a minute or two of the half restarting, and you can just tell Brentford was still thinking about the Lucasades and the energy packs they just had, and they hadn't really switched back on into the game, and we were just all over them straight away.
I have to agree. I saw Jonathan Savage put out on Twitter that maybe Alex Ferguson had given Ten Hag his hairdryer. As we all know, we had that little conversation about Fergie being sacked during midweek. So maybe, just maybe, he thought, well, I don't need it anymore. We'll just leave that there with young Eric. And my God, it absolutely did work. Do yellow cards for managers accumulate like they do for players? Might be a new tactic we need to try out, provided Rooney and Eric don't have to sit in the stands every other week. Even if they did, I don't think any manager has ever received 5 yellow cards in a season. So, if they get sent off, obviously there's usually a suspension that comes out from that. But I'm going to say no. I don't think. And yes, he is the brother of Robbie Savage. And I did think about just saying that so that everybody who didn't know him knew who he was, but he's not just Robbie Savage's brother. He's Jonathan Savage. He's a man in his own right, and therefore he deserves to be named as such. However, I mean, the jury's out for some people. For me, Marcus Rashford is a legend of Manchester United, and is doing all sorts of wonderful things. Benny, again, we spoke earlier about Garnacho, and we know the love and respect with which you hold him in, but especially Zayden as well. Talk to me a little bit about that. First of all, talk to me about the goal, because, again, brilliant from Rashford, brilliant from Garnacho. But then maybe give us a little bit as to what it is you think that makes Garnacho your boy's favourite player.
Well, the goal was brilliant. As you said, the Rashford delivery was absolutely inch perfect. And the first time finish from Garnacho, he's got that in his locker all day long. I've seen Bath Time said something about Garnacho having an easy shot to finish. I can somewhere up there. If you go back to his FA Youth Cup winning days when he was in the academy, he was tapping in goals in the 6-yard box. He can tap them in. It's just that sometimes with Garnacho, he likes to maybe go for the spectacular a bit too much. Likes to rush the ball a little bit, put his laces through it. Can be guilty of maybe shooting front post instead of trying to go try and aim for the far post and try and make the keeper work a bit more. But as I say, he's just got that wow factor. He's one of those that will get you off his seat. And as I said before, he just keeps on trying. You can't put the kid down. It doesn't matter if he gets fouled from the opposition, whether he gets, crowd get on his back a little bit. When they start, groaning if he shoots into an opposing defender, and you think, oh, maybe he could have released the pass there, or maybe he could have gone round the player, and he's just, tried a little skill, he's not come off, and he's been easily intercepted. But these players that you have to give time to as well. These young players that Ahmad's exactly the same as well, even though he's a couple of years older than Garnacho. You just know that the players that will get you off your backsides, basically, excite you. Just the way like I was when I was a kid, Lee Sharp. Lee Sharp was my first ever footballing idol. And the way that he used to run down the wing, take people on, excite, score a few goals. It's 30 years to the day, obviously, since that little flick against Barcelona in the European Champions League at Old Trafford as well, for Lee Sharp there. And you obviously, I grew up with Chelskis and Giggs, proper rapid wingers that take people on, turn people inside out. Obviously, football's changed since then. Obviously, a lot of the wingers now, like Garnacho and Ahmad, they're more sort of wide forwards instead of out-and-out traditional wingers, I'd say. For my lad, he's just he's loved Garnacho since to see him in the academy. Really, he always had that wow factor as well in the academy. He'd pick the ball up, he'd run at people, he'd showed up a bit of skill. More often than not, he'd find the back of the net as well. With Kobe Mainu in that side as well, with Charlie McNeil, with Savage's lad as well. You had quite a decent side. Dan Gore in there. Well, I'm a big fan of Dan Gore as well. But for my little man, he was always a big Cristiano Ronaldo fan, and I think Garnacho kind of reminds him of Cristiano Ronaldo. And obviously it's not going to be like for like. No player is going to ever be like for like. But there's certain parts of Garnacho you can sort of see a little bit of Ronaldo in him. Obviously he idolises Cristiano Ronaldo as well. But, he's just one of those players, as I said, that he's a United player because he gets you off your backside, he gets you excited. He's not afraid to take people on. He's not afraid to have a shot. Where some players, you know, you get frustrated with them because they don't shoot. They're not shooting. They're trying to walk the ball in the back of the net. And this guy, Nacho, has a shot. It was one in the second half as well, where he's almost beat the goalkeeper. This time he's gone far post, and the keeper's obviously pushed it round the post. And you know, he does have variation. I think he needs to learn how to vary up a little bit. Just try and chuck a little bit more into it. You know, just keep defenders guessing, to keep goalkeepers guessing. Because sometimes I will admit that he can be a bit one-dimensional, where he's shooting at the near post, and you're thinking, why is he shooting? He's going when it's a defender just 2 yards in front of him. You know, can he not just try and flick it round the corner? Can he not just try and feed somebody in? But as I said before, it'll come. It'll come with experience and with knowledge, and he's still developing his footballing brain. It'll all come.
I think I agree entirely. Lots of mentions of Ronaldo now, NT. So certainly getting there. Turns out that Benny may have mentioned him for a brief second when he first joined.
I did.
So I obviously didn't hear it at the very start. And that's where we got confused. It's perfectly fine, NT. You can talk about spaghetti-haired Ronaldo as much as you like. It just confused me. That was all. And now I'm less confused. So all is well. That was his 20th goal of his United career there for Alejandro Garnacho. It puts him amongst the legends that are Ander Herrera. He also scored 20 goals for Manchester United. So quick quiz time for the pair of you without Googling. How many goals do you think you would need to score in order to enter the top 100 goal scorers of all time for Manchester United?
I'm going to say 40 or more.
40 for Adam. Okay. What do you reckon, Benny?
65.
Interesting.
That's very specific.
It's got you. It's 28.
Wow.
Yeah.
28 goals will put you in to the top 100 goal scorers for Manchester United. So he's only 8 off. Only 8 off. That's everything by the time. Everything. Every game. European Cup, Europa Cups, Charity Shields, the lot. Everything. So there you go. 28 goals is all it takes to get into the top 100. So there you go. Fun little facts for you there. I want to have
something new every day, eh?
You do. I try and be educational where I can be. So there we go. I'd say around 29 then. Yeah. 28 gets you into 100. 27 is 100. So you'd be joint 100th at that point. Hoyland. I was sitting there. I didn't watch the game. I was listening to it through the radio commentary and keeping up to date through all the stats and things like that that's on the Man United app and through Twitter and all of those things. And I was sitting there, I was a little bit worried about Hoyland. Now, you guys are probably going to tell me a different story because it sounds like from everybody that is there, he did incredibly well. But I was worried because it didn't feel like he was getting the chances that I perhaps would have liked him to have. And then, of course, comes the beautiful moment where Bruno Fernandes puts a little flick through. Hoyland gets in there and, it's the most delicious chip I've seen since the last time I was in Burger King. It was absolutely unreal. Divine. I did see it. Beautiful. Adam, talk to me about that goal. The 18th goal of Rasmus Hoyland's career at United. Puts him up there with Arnold Muren and, of course, the legend that is Mike Smalling. So talk to me. What a goal by Rasmus Hoyland. Tell me about his performance for people like me that didn't get the chance to watch it for the whole 90.
Yeah, it was a great goal, first and foremost. It was very composed. He could have very easily fluffed that, skied it, screwed it round the corner. I was really happy for him. He's obviously not had the best start to the season he would have wanted with the injury and obviously getting himself fit. And there is definitely a player in there. Definitely. And I really like Hoyland. I think he's going to be good for us. He's really fast. He's really strong. He just needs to continue to improve that finishing. But I put him in my fantasy football team today, so I was very happy to see that go in. I just had a feeling it might be today that he broke his duck for the season. So, yeah, I was really happy to see that go in. Generally, he had a very quiet first half, but I think that more reflected United's overall performance. There was a little bit of frustration around me where I was sat with his hold-up play in that first half in particular. But if I'm honest, you've got to give credit to the Brentford defender. I can't remember. I think it was number 22 who was marking him. Don't know who that is. Sorry. But he was doing a really good job of, being all over him when that ball was coming in. And he was twice the size of Højlund, whoever he was. So he was just overpowering him a little bit. But he just needed that one chance, and he got it in that second half, and he finished it beautifully. So he definitely came more into his game in the second half, and his performance improved. But again, I think that was in line with the team's performance in general improving. But I was really happy for him today. Really glad to see him on the score sheet, and hopefully it's the first of many this season.
No, absolutely. Completely agree with that man saying great goal, good second half first half. It's disappointing, couldn't seem to hold the ball up. Absolutely. Bar time finding a funny moment. To be fair, I think the funniest moment that I saw from Højlund was him nearly scoring with his back because the goalie had dropped the ball onto him and then just pulls out a world-class save to stop it from going across the line. But Benny, your thoughts on the Rasmus Højlund experience that you had today? I mean, we all knew that he wasn't going to be the finished article. We know that, again, like a lot of the other players we're talking about, he's young. He's not going to have the same immediate impact as maybe someone like Erling Haaland would have had, having had the chance to cut his teeth. Maybe he's not in that bracket, but he's certainly someone who could score double figures for us on a regular basis, you would think.
I can see something in him. I really can. I think his hold-up play is quite decent at times. There is times where he does lose it, but I can see something in him. Once he starts building a little bit more strength, I think he'd be brilliant when he's back to goal. The good thing is he's got a really quick footballing brain as well. There's a few times where the ball will get knocked over the top into him, and he's got the first time touch to knock it to the side or to knock it round the back of him onto one of his teammates. I think if he could work on that a little bit more, keep himself fit first and foremost. We need a fit Rasmus Højlund because as he proved last season when he went through that period of games where he kept on scoring and scoring and scoring, he can definitely find the back of the net, and he's definitely a Manchester United type of centre forward for me. Whereas I don't think Xerxes is at the minute. I think Xerxes looks all over the place, to be honest with you.
Well, perhaps you could answer this, Benny, as well, that Bartime's just put here, because he says he's spoken to a few match goers. They prefer Højlund to Xerxes. Does that ring true for the people here as well?
I think so. Yeah, I do as well. I prefer Højlund. Hopefully, Xerxes still finding his feet in the Premier League and he'll come good at some point. But with Højlund, you can see, he's got the movement. He can run. He makes some really clever runs, but sometimes we're guilty. We're not picking him out straight away. Again, it's midfield. I thought midfield today was pretty slow on the ball. And yes, we have got a couple of aged players in there with regards to Casemiro and Eriksen. But even Bruno, when you usually expect a good snappy ball from Bruno, it wasn't happening today. It didn't really work out. Because if you look at, he's got quality movement, Højlund. He's always looking on the last shoulder of his man. He's looking to spin in behind. He makes some clever runs across as well, pulling players out. So sometimes you like your Rashfords, your Garnachos, or whoever it may be out wide. They're getting a little bit of joy there. They get a little bit more room because he makes clever movement across the front of the line. So he's dragging defenders out with him. I just think sometimes, again, he just needs to run the games, really. And as I said, he proved it last season. He can finish. When we get him some good service, and that's what I think sometimes we lack for anybody that plays centre forward is a decent ball in that box, a decent final ball. And and I put it down to sometimes the way we play with two wide forwards. When you got two wide forwards, they tend to like, again, on the Garnacho thing, they tend to like shoot a little bit more, looking to shoot. Rashford's exactly the same. He looks to drill a shot. And sometimes you can see Højlund gets frustrated because he's there. He's in a bit of space there. Just throw me the ball and allow him to turn on it and get a shot away, or he's give him a ball that's just in front of him and he toe poke it to the back of the net. And we started doing that last season until he picked up an injury again. When he went on that, I can't remember the games in a row that he scored now. I should know because my son obviously got Højlund's shirt at Villa Park last season in that goal scoring run. But I prefer him to Xerxes. I think with Garnacho as well, and with Rashford, or even the Ahmad, if Ahmad's playing, they seem to gel a bit more. There's a little bit more gel in there. There's a bit more of an understanding. Whereas Xerxes, I think you still get used to his teammates, still getting used to the way United playing. And I think probably Xerxes, I don't think he's an out-and-out centre forward. Whereas I think Højlund will eventually be that out-and-out centre forward where he will grab me. I reckon he'll get 20 goals a season. It's just we need to learn to look for his movement, and we need to also, and that's not just on the wide forwards, that's also in our midfield players as well. Can we get the ball to us quickly? Højlund can sometimes, I think against Aston Villa as well, we did that once and he just strayed offside. He kept himself, just a half a yard back. He'd have been straight through and he'd have been through on goal. He makes some really clever movement, and he's not scared to rough it up as well. He gets stuck in. He's not afraid to get to get muscle players to back into players, to get nasty with them, and that's what you need in the centre forward as well. You can't just be nicey. You need to get stuck in.
Even Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, the smiling assassin that he was, would occasionally get a little bit nasty, lest we think about that wonderful little hack against Newcastle that caused a red card, which will forever remain one of the reasons why we love him. Interesting point here from Gordon. He says, Rasmus, are we going to break him? Looks like he needs 2 years as a backup, third choice to find himself. Are we asking too much for a developing player? I'd argue actually it's the opposite. I think if you're a developing player, it's that tricky balance, isn't it? Because as a young player, he's not young, he's not like 16, 17, 18. He's of a decent age to be playing football. The thing is, he's not played football at the level that he's playing at currently for his whole career, really. So for him, this is definitely a learning curve. But actually, is there any better way to learn than being thrown straight into the cauldron, so to speak, and sort of being forced into playing it? I said at half time, when I put my half-time thoughts on the All United Twitter channel, to me, it's not Ten Hag that's the drama. It's the fact that we're creating all these chances, but our front line just isn't putting them away. And as a result, that is what has got us in the position that we're in at the moment. It's not the football. It's not how we're playing. Lots of people lots of people that I think are just struggling to understand how football really works, if I'm being brutally honest, having a go at the manager when actually the football that we're playing is of a decent enough standard. We're just not finishing the chances. Now, you can put that on the manager if you want, saying he's the one that coaches them. Ruud van Nistelrooy's there. He's the best finisher I've ever seen in my life. So if he can't teach them how to finish a then I don't know who can, So I don't know. I just think that for me, give Oiling the chance. We just got to be a bit more zen about it and just accept the fact that we don't have a world-class front line. We've got a lot of potential in the front line, and so therefore we need to, just be a bit calmer, I think, when it comes to what's going on there. Dad saying, hate to keep saying this at United, time isn't something players have. Well, it has to be. This is what I'm saying. I've sat here what feels like a really long time trying to explain to all of you that you've just got to lower your expectations. It's not lowering your standards. It's lowering your expectations. If you think this is all going to get solved like that,
Yep.
You're in cuckoo land. You think sacking Ten Hag and bringing somebody else in means we're all of a sudden going to be world beaters? It's not the case.
I've been saying the same thing for the last 2 weeks, mate. Same thing.
You need time. You've got to give them that now. It's not about trust the process. You've got to forget the previous 2 years. It's brand new owners, brand new strategy, brand new everything. Let's see where we are next year. Let's give them till the end of the season. Let's see what's going on. Last week, Daz came on here and said we were closer to the relegation zone than we were to Europe. Well, now that's not the case. Now we're closer to Europe than we are to the relegation zone. So things are already looking up.
He's also a day closer to giving me a tenner because he reckons that 10 hours going to be sat by the 1st of November. So I'm waiting patiently for 5:01 p.m. on the 1st of November, and I'm going to drop in my PayPal details so we can send that tenner over.
And I agree with this. 18 months, absolutely. At least give people a chance. This is it. Xerxes played fewer than 8 games. Just give him a go. He's going to take him a while.
Xerxes, he's only joined us this season. He's only played a handful of games and he's come from a different league. He needs time to bed in. And the problem that Xerxes found was because Højlund was injured, he was thrown into the frying pan. And yes, he scored on his debut, but he needs that time, that last 20 minutes in a game to just come in or play in those dead rubber games to find his feet for us, find his form, and he'll come good. But we need to stop putting so much pressure on these young players because they will crumble. They're not the experienced heads like your 35-year-old Johnny Evans. They will crumble if you put too much pressure on them. We just need to be patient with these young players.
It's interesting. I mean, Dad's... I don't know what to say to you, mate, because you're swinging backwards and forwards. It's not time for time's sake. It's because actually we've got to reset. We've got to. And when you push that reset button, you've got to give them a chance to actually do it. We've had one transfer window under new owners. One. And they said it was going to be 4. They came out and said that. It's going to be 4 transfer windows.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they used their own voice to tell you how long it was going to be, and yet people are still moaning now. But they told you that's the point to look for. That's why they're saying, is it 2026? That's what they're looking for. So we've just got to chill out. You say, where's he worth the investment? He's won 2 trophies. That's what he keeps on trying to say. It's not like he's won bugger all. As much as I loved Solskjaer, it was hard to back him in terms of giving him that defence because he didn't win anything. It was just how he made us feel that was so positive. With this, maybe he's not making us feel as much as Solskjaer, but he did win a couple, and I've seen this a few times today. So, absolutely true. So, yeah, exactly. Here we go. Give ETH the full season and make the correct decision, which will probably be to keep him because he's actually, I think, quite a good manager who's getting a little bit too much stick at the minute. Right, listen, Adam, the next point I wanted to make, and sort of the penultimate point really, was to do with the end. I spoke earlier about how Brentford had 6 shots in the first half, 2 of them on target. They only had 2 in the entirety of the second half. They were just restricted to absolutely nothing, which 100% shows that Manchester United, might argue, had the right tools for the job because they played incredibly well. I'm finding it really hard at the moment because United actually, I think, had a really good game today. You've got the commentators telling us that potentially that was the best performance they've seen all season. Yet I'm still seeing people calling it rubbish. You tell me, where do you rank that performance out of performances that United have played so far this season?
It was one of the better ones, certainly. Let's be honest, there's been a few really bad performances last season. I think of the Liverpool and a couple of the other games. But again, I'm seeing, and I'm going to probably get slaughtered in the comments here by the Ten Hag outers, I'm seeing that progression. I watch them week in, week out. I'm seeing that what we're building now, what Ten Hag's trying to put together. You saw that today. You're absolutely right. That second half, we completely shut the door. I read I was reading the after-game report. They said that they ran out of ideas, Brentford. They were just running into corridors and the ball was going out of play. I don't think it was Brentford were running out of ideas. I think that it was United were playing very well and preventing them having any of those ideas in the first place. The progression is there. We just, again, go back to what I was saying. It's all about patience. Just let's be patient, guys. Let's see where we are in May. But I would put that up there as one of our better performances. Certainly not the first 20 minutes. First 20 minutes was a little bit of the same as we've seen the last few weeks, perhaps. But then we started to really get the ball rolling. And I said it in my post-match video that I did on my socials that this now needs to become, 2 good results, 3 good results, 4 good results with the performance. Because I think as well, one thing that this team lacks is confidence. And you can tell they're very shaky when they go to goal down or they have a bad result. You can see the confidence gets knocked. I think the more they put these performances together and get these results, they'll start that snowballing effect, and hopefully we'll begin to see, the real Manchester United that Ten Hag's trying to build in this busy run up to the festive period. That's what I'm hoping.
Yeah, me too. Benny, what did you reckon? So I saw again a lot of people complain we only scored 5 goals in the Premier League. That's now 7, which, don't get me wrong, I'm not sitting here and defending by any stretch of the imagination. But you then look at our cup games, and we've actually scored, I think it's a further 10. So, 11 rather. So it's not that bad. Talk to me. What do you reckon? Where does that rank in terms of performances for you this season?
It was. I don't like losing must-win games, but it was a must-win game today. It had to be. I wasn't particularly bothered about a performance as such. I just wanted the 3 points, just to get us back used to winning again. Wasn't the greatest first half in the world, but the second half we started to come more and more on top as the game grew. I just think the midfield again, as I said before, it's a bit sluggish today. Even Bruno, I think Bruno was sat far too deep for my liking as well. But then again, was that maybe in case of protecting Casemiro and Eriksen, who haven't got the legs, a little bit in the middle of the park? I'd like to see Bruno 5-10 yards further forward than what he was. He was sat far too deep for me today. Not able to control the game as much, but the main thing is we got the 3 points. Back to winning ways again. Hopefully now that brings a bit of confidence going in to the Fenerbahce game, which is going to be a tough game away there. Tough game against Mr. Mourinho, Mr. Fred, and Mr. Amrabat. Coming up against some of our former colleagues and former managers. So we need to. We needed that really badly. I think things going to get better. I hope things going to get better. Can't get any worse than it has done. Sometimes I think we set up a little bit too. What's the word I'm looking for? Just a little bit too safely, a bit too safe for my liking. Instead of maybe going out there trying to control the game, grab the game by the scruff of the neck straight away. We're playing a bit tentatively, we're playing a bit within ourselves. And I don't know whether that's the
intention going out not to lose rather than to win.
Yeah.
Basically. Do you think that's a confidence thing, going back to what I was saying earlier?
But it might be, mate. It might be that the confidence thing within not just the management, within the group of players as well. Listen, wins can only bring more confidence and bring more belief into as a team and as individuals and players as well. So hopefully now we can go and we can kick on now and we get a good run of, was it 6-7 games now to the international break again? We can go on a good run into the next international break. Wouldn't that be such a nice change than going to another international break and all be doom and gloom again?
No, absolutely. Middle of November. That is something we are looking for sure. Gordon Hill saying at a Kane level 9 would create time for ETH. This is the thing I'm trying to get at. Like, this is the sort of conversation I'd be expecting to have 20 odd years ago when there wasn't a transfer window. People keep saying, you can't do this till January. So like, nobody is sitting. Do you think Ten Hag is sitting there at home this evening when he's sitting there with his waffles? Do you think he's sitting there going, do you know what? I think my team is just the dogs. It's got everything it needs. Or do you think he's sitting there going, God, I wish I had a world-class striker? I guarantee you it's the second one, but they don't grow on trees.
Well, I was just about to say that, Barry, that there's not that many out there.
No,
and the ones that are out there, you ain't getting. You ain't going to go waltz into City and get Haaland off him. You're not going to get Kane from Bayern.
You could have had Haaland if people had listened to him elsewhere back when he was talking, but that was a different leadership. And I think this is my whole point. This is why people have just got to chill out. We might even get someone in January because it's got to be the right person. How many times do you keep on hearing people say the transfer strategy is atrocious? We're bringing in the wrong people. So if we're bringing in the wrong people, why are we just going to accept anybody, for example? There has to be a reason in January to bring them in. So, listen, Ten Hag's got my backing fully, until at least the end of the season, regardless of where we finish, because the same as with the strikers, I don't think there's a manager out there that's got the magic wand.
Now Tuchel's gone to England. He was the only one that could have maybe have turned my head if they pulled the plug on Ten Hag.
Maybe. I don't know. There's a question here for NT, if either of you wants to answer this. What's our fans' chant when Onana takes a goal kick? He didn't hear it today on telly, but it's been bugging him trying to figure out what it is. So, do any of you know what the fans' chant is when Onana takes a goal kick?
There is one when he takes a free kick, is there, Benny?
No.
Unless he's hearing rival fans, perhaps, doing the usual.
Possibly.
Yeah.
You're not very good at that sort of thing. Maybe. That would make sense, to be fair. And I was just going to come back to you, Daz, with what you're saying here. You say you've read this story, but you're talking about... sorry, that's the next question. ECH will get there based on what I've just told you. You said it yourself as well. He's won 2 trophies in 2 years. The first season, everybody fully expected us to be challenging for the title after the first season because he'd done so well. The second season, we were ravaged with injuries, which were not simple. And you speak again a bit later about not knowing his first 11. Well, that's because we've not had a settled first 11 at Manchester United for over 18 months. In fact, the last time we had a settled Manchester United, we finished in the Champions League spaces. So forgive me, I don't think it's us or him that's not learning. I think it's other people. The last thing I was going to ask for the pair of you is this question indeed, because we at All for United posted a video from Andrew Wall right at the very end as Ten Hag was coming off. Beautiful chanting of Eric Ten Hag's Red and White Army. It seems clear to me that the mood in Old Trafford is fully behind Eric Ten Hag. Would you both agree with that statement?
I'd probably say it's about 80-20 in favour of Ten Hag. I did hear the odd moan around me, the odd Daz sitting around me who just seemed to think that sacking Ten Hag would solve all of our issues and we'd be challenging City for the title. But then the vast majority, like you showed in that video, and every time he came out, even he came out second half, we're 1-0 down. Huge round of applause for him. Chance going up for him. So I think overwhelmingly it is Ten Hag in.
Benny?
Yeah, it's listen, the fans of South Stadium will always support the manager, always back the manager. He always gets a good reception. There's the chance of Eric Ten Hag's Red and White Army, and you know when he comes out just before kick-off and there's a round of applause, and as he said, comes out second half, round of applause. You know, gets clapped off, and his name's sang as well at the end as he's coming down, as he's walking towards the tunnel. But speaking to a lot of United fans, I think it's started to shift quite a lot now to maybe going towards the 50-50 state. When you speak to fans before games, it's like people that were really Ten Hag in and now starting to question it a little bit. It's shifted. And it's over him, basically, maybe, again, being a bit too safe as a manager. He doesn't take enough risks. He doesn't play the United way, as in doesn't allow players to express themselves, doesn't allow players to maybe play Machiavellian football. It's all played within ourselves. It's all played within the structure. It's all played to maybe, like at Villa Park, I still think we could have won that game had we gone out to win the game. But I felt they set up to make sure we didn't get beat in that game, and we came out with a point, which wasn't a disaster at the end of the day. But I still think Villa were there for the taking. They were definitely really hungover from the Bayern Munich win. Sometimes his tactics can be a bit baffling. Ten Hag, his substitutions are baffling as well sometimes. And it's just sometimes when United go behind, it's like you're thinking, "Come on, Ten Hag, make that change. Just switch the tactics. Just try and throw everything but the kitchen sink at it." We come from the era of Alex Ferguson, where he took a lot of gambles sometimes, and in the games, rather lose games 4-1 than lose it 1-0, because you're going for the win. You're throwing everything at it but the kitchen sink. And sometimes when you are in the lead, or when you're at 1-1 and he makes a couple of substitutions, he makes it in the back line, and all of a sudden you're 2-1 down. You're thinking, why has he made that change for? I just think sometimes I speak to a lot of fans that they want him to be a bit more like the Erik ten Hag when he first came in, quite authoritative, quite standing out there with his chest puffed out, like he is a Manchester United manager. He belongs here. This is his team. It just seems he maybe gone into his shell a little bit, and he's not as maybe authoritative, or he's not taking command like he would have done. I think especially when he first came in, and results were looking good. Won the Carabao Cup, and obviously I know it was a bit of a slide after the Carabao Cup final. But just speaking to fans that were absolutely Ten Hag, nailed Ten Hag in. There was nobody else out there. Let's give him to the end of the season. Basically, it has sort of maybe shifted a little bit. Some of them are going to split down the middle. They're 50-50 on keeping him or getting rid, but everyone I speak to say they hope he turns it around. They really, really want him to turn it around. They really, really want Ten Hag to be the one. And I just think that Ten Hag needs to probably believe in himself a little bit more. Go back to that character. Go back to that no-nonsense manager that he was when he first came in. I just think allow the team to express themselves a little bit more as well on the field of play. Don't try not to play within ourselves so much. Allow the shackles to come off a little bit. If we're 2-1 down in the game, let's go and try and get an equaliser. Let's go and try and win 3-2. Exactly what we was doing right at the beginning of Ten Hag's reign as well. When we were, after the first couple of bips at the start of his first season, we started playing some good football. We started winning. We came from behind. I think it's just a little bit of belief, and I think it goes back to that confidence thing. Confidence within himself and confidence within his players, and wins breed confidence. And hopefully now, like I said, this now takes us on to a bit of a winning run, and then the mood changed on tonight again. Everybody will be like, "Listen, he's had his tough spell. He's switched it. Hopefully, he'll start switching it around now." And then football fans are fickle. When we start winning football matches, the team start playing well. You see a little bit of an identity there. Fans will they'll change the tune within a split second. Just needs to be given time. I'm all for it. It's like I was speaking to one of my friends. He's on about Arsenal. Like, oh, listen, they've got a style of play that they're challenging for the league. But I said, look, let's think about it. Arteta, when he first was at Arsenal, they won the FA Cup in his first season. But a lot of Arteta's out then. And Arsenal stuck behind him, started slowly building his squad. And yes, they took a bit of a beating today at Bournemouth. However, that squad's now up and it's up there. It's in and around that top 1, 2, 3 places. They can challenge City. They can challenge Liverpool. Or so the thing is, if we keep swapping, changing managers, that they'll bring in their own players, and we're just spinning around in a circle. We're like a dog chasing its own tail.
Yeah,
a bit of patience. Let's give him to the end of the season under this new structure. Let's not be too hasty. What's that? Sorry, Barry.
It's what Take That asked for.
Well, yeah,
bit of patience.
Yeah, they did, mate. They did.
Who are we to argue with Take That? And I just like my final thing. I had this sort of rallying call at the beginning of the season. So the fact you're sitting here saying that Arnie Slot gave an interview, which was a public takedown of our manager, and we're using that as a reason why we shouldn't have him as a manager. I cannot recall a time where we have ever listened to a Liverpool manager and then sat there and just agreed with him. Surely it's our job as fans to be telling this bald Ten Hag wannabe to be getting out of our mentions and keeping his dirty name out. We should be Will Smithing this against Chris Rock. Instead, we seem to be sitting here going, no, you're right, Arnie. No, bugger off. He's a Liverpudlian manager, not having it. As far as I'm concerned, it's one thing to have your own fans slating him when somebody else is slating him and he's got nothing to do with a football club. That's where it stops. It's our job to all be together and be Manchester United. Not
exactly. It's like, with the manager as well. It's like I personally sometimes I get a bit frustrated with Ten Hag, and I think it's only natural you get frustrated with your manager. Sometimes, even the great times Ferguson, sometimes I was thinking, what the hell is he doing? Is he losing the plot? Sometimes as a football fan, you feel like that. But for me, at the end of the day, I hope, and I've always said, I really hope he turns it around. Against Coventry in the FA Cup, in the FA Cup semi-final last season, I thought that was it. If we'd have gone out to Coventry, I was like, this manager's gone. Cannot go out to Coventry like that.
It was the hardest.
He went on and won the FA Cup, and it's bought him a little bit of time, bought him a little bit. I just feel like sometimes, you can't keep pulling triggers on managers. I think the way to go about it is, I think you look at the Arsenal way. People want Arteta out. What's he now? His 5th season, 6th season, whatever it may be. And he's slowly started to build Arsenal up. And that's what we've got to do. We've got to try and slowly build something. And because, we're not financially in a stable position like maybe an Arsenal is, maybe, of course, like a Manchester City's, like, we've got to play it a little bit clever. We've got to take time to get the players in. We may be shopping on a shoestring budget for some players. We may be having to look to the future because we can't afford to get in who is world class at this present moment in time. But when it eventually does all click, which I hope it does, and I hope Ten Hag is around to see that, and I'll be like, I'm glad that guy's turned it around, because bowler's best, as we all know, gentlemen, bowler's best. And let's just get behind the manager and we'll to the very, very end.
Completely agree. Final thoughts. We've had a ridiculous amount of chances bar time in every game that we played so far. It is just that we are not putting them away. And I will keep saying that until the cows come home, because I know I'm right. Secondly, the Slot interview does not erode confidence in the manager. It's coming from a rival manager, and he just needs to do one. Ineos are constantly being linked to new managers. Is that Ineos doing that? I don't think so. It's the media, because they can't stop talking about us. And gullible Manchester United fans are eating it up as if it is factual, not understanding the fact that people like Samuel Luckhurst, for example, are literally playing you to get your emotional responses on Manchester United. Why do you
Ten Hag said in his pre-match
genuinely, why do you think that All for United as a channel is still only just over 1,000 subscribers on Twitter, under 1,000 subscribers on TikTok, getting a few hundred views if we're lucky on here? It's because we don't go chasing that media shite. That's why. Because we just sit here and talk normally, that have these sorts of conversations. We're not sitting here chasing the media-driven rubbish and tripe that everybody throws out there. And that's why. Because I refuse to do it. It's just absolutely pathetic watching people like Talk Sport and all of that lot just try and get on the back with Manchester United Football Club.
Because United is money for them. That's the only reason they do it.
It's not what we're here for. We're here for supporting, talking, and yeah, that will mean negative conversations. Of course it will. But today is definitely not that day, because in case you've forgotten, we won 2-1. We came back from behind, and God bless them. Haven't ruined the weekend right at the very beginning. I think we can all sit there and go, isn't that bloody wonderful? Benny and Adam, it's been superb to have you both here. Thank you so much for joining us once again. Adam, where could people find you if they wanted to see more? Because a lot of people sort of loving what you've been saying tonight.
Thank you. I mostly skulk around on TikTok, but I have got an X as well. Both handles are the Hadfield Reacts, so I'd love for you guys to come and drop us a follow. I try and do daily videos around United if I can, depending on what's going on, and I love to get that interaction in as well. But thank you again, Barry, for having me. I always love coming on, and nice to meet you, Benny.
Nice to meet you too, pal.
Yeah, I very much enjoyed hearing from both of you. Benny, it's just a pleasure to have you in. Have you enjoyed being back, mate?
Always, Barry. It's always a pleasure to be back on this channel with your good self. With Adam for the first time, it's been an absolute joy.
Superb. Well, we can't wait to have you back on again soon. Thank you for everyone. Whether you agree with us or disagree with us, it is All for United. It says be heard. You might not be agreed with, but you'll definitely be heard, because as you'll have noticed, pretty much every single message that has been put through has come up on the bottom of your screen. And if you haven't, just read it through the chat. We don't delete anything, because that's what it's for. So we hope you feel heard. We hope you had a great time. We'll be back hopefully in midweek, but if not, definitely back at the weekend, where I'm sure we'll be discussing everything that's happened with Fenerbahce and looking back at what is going on in the Premier League. Take care, everyone. Have a wonderful weekend. Night all.